Hi, welcome to the Cortex tutorial for MTai Frame Rate Conversion, the artificial intelligence frame interpolation tool from MTI Film. I'm Ian, and today I'll be walking you through using clips and composition reels to transcode material into a new frame rate using our new MTai conversion method. Please note, the MTai conversion method is hardware and computationally intensive. MTI recommends using an NVIDIA 3090 Ti GPU or one with a minimum of 24 GB of memory in order to source from and render full-resolution frames up to 4K. Resolutions lower than 4K can utilize GPUs with 12 GB of memory, but they do not support full-resolution 4K. If a 4K source is desired and the only GPU available is one with 12 GB, there is an option in the Reel Creation dialog to render using half-res. When this option is used, Cortex downscales frames to 1/2 resolution, and then back to 4K on the output. For distributed rendering of shots in the composition, you can use multiple Cortex workstations attached to a shared database for renders. Please note, there are currently a select number of frame rates that Cortex supports for conversion using MTai. Please refer to the conversion chart shown here for the input and output frame rates that are supported. Cortex will be adding additional frame rates in future releases. You should start with a basic understanding of deliverables, clip and composition reels, as well as the edit tool before diving into this tutorial. If you need to familiarize yourself with these aspects of Cortex, please visit tutorials.mtifilm.com and watch the videos on the Project Manager, dailies, and the edit tool before returning to this tutorial. Keyboard shortcuts for these tools are available in the Help menu, and as we go through the tutorial today, keyboard shortcuts will appear on the screen for easy reference. For this tutorial, we will assume the project frame rate is set to 23.98 frames per second. To begin, make sure you've set up the desired deliverables you want to output for the frame rate conversions. When converting compositions, MTI recommends changing the output file name from source file name to reel name. You can ignore the missing unique token warning. Using the reel name allows you to alter the source file name to reflect the output file name's new frame rate. If you're converting clips that do not contain cuts, such as raw camera clips, leave the output file name as source file name. In this tutorial, we'll create two jobs. The first job will convert 29.97 frame per second raw camera clips to 23.98 frame per second clips. And in the second job, we'll convert a 29.97 frame per second composition containing cuts to 23.98 frames per second. In each job, the converted result will contain a different number of frames, yet have the identical duration and be in sync with the sound. Let's start by creating the first example job to convert ProRes HD raw camera clips. In the Render tool, click Import and select Clips or Folder, depending on the amount of media needing conversion. The clips will populate in the main clips bin. The original frame rate of the selected clip can be seen at the bottom left of the UI. When converting clips that do not contain cuts, such as raw camera clips, create a new clips reel. Disable the Enforce Consistency Rules checkbox, set the timecode to source, and ensure that the frame rate is set to 23.98. Set the frame rate conversion method field to MTai Interpolate. Remember to consider whether or not to enable the Render from half-res checkbox, depending on the GPU memory and source resolution, as explained earlier. In this case, the HD clips do not require any rescaling. Finally, add the clips to the reel. Cortex will bring up a dialog box notifying you that in order to properly perform the MTai frame rate conversion, the reel must be closed. Click Yes to close the reel and begin rendering. The speed of the render will depend on GPU memory and resolution. Next, we'll create the second example job to work on a composition. In this case, we'll want to make sure that the deliverable output file name is changed to real name, so we can ensure that the output file reflects the new frame rate. In the Edit tool, start by importing a 29.97 dpx clip that contains cuts. Next, right-click on the clip and choose Auto Composition. If you have an EDL, you can choose Auto Composition and Merge EDL. But for this tutorial, we're going to create an auto composition with shot detection. Cortex will place this clip in a new composition named identically to the clip's name and automatically begin detecting shot breaks. Once the shot detection is complete, vet the cuts to ensure that there are no false positives or negatives. Please note, it is very important that the shots be correctly defined with breaks, since the algorithm can create clean cuts and calculate proper runtime for each shot only if they are clearly defined. Next, click the New button and choose New Composition Reel. In the New Reel dialog box, disable the Enforce Consistency Rules checkbox. Set the timecode to source and ensure the frame rate is set to 23.98. As with our clip reel conversion, set the frame rate conversion method to MTai Interpolate. Since our GPU is 12 GB and our source clip's resolution is below 4K, we do not need to enable the Render with Half-Res checkbox. Once those properties are set, choose the target deliverable and click Create. In the sidebar, we can see that Cortex has created an empty composition reel. The next step is to add the composition media into this reel. We can do this a few different ways. To add every shot in the composition to the frame rate conversion reel, right-click on the composition and choose Add All Events to Composition Reel. Cortex will bring up a dialog box notifying you that in order to properly perform the MTai frame rate conversion, the reel must be closed. Click Yes to close the reel and begin rendering. Alternatively, if there are individual shots in the composition that need to be converted to a new frame rate, you'll need to view the events list of your composition. Right-click on the composition in the sidebar and choose Show Events List. This will replace the clips bin with a list of the separate shots of your composition. From here, you can select the separate shots that you want to convert. After selecting them, right-click and choose Add Selected to Composition Reel. Cortex will again warn you that the composition reel will need to be closed to properly render the conversion. Select Yes and your composition reel will begin rendering. Again, the speed of the render will depend on GPU memory and media resolution. Now that the render is complete, we're going to bring the result back into this job and show the comparison. Right-click on the completed render, choose Import into Job, and select Current. Cortex will bring this render back into the current job, and you can see in our clips bin that we now have our original media and our frame converted media, both with identical durations, though different frame rates. And that's the tutorial for MTai interpolating frame rate conversion in Cortex. For support, to submit a help ticket, or to find other useful information about Cortex, please check out forum.mtifilm.com. Thanks for watching.